For people currently incarcerated in Ontario or who work in the prison system, this pandemic keeps presenting particular challenges. The highly contagious Omicron variant is just the latest. Lee Chapelle is president of the advocacy firm Canadian Prison Consulting, Inc. His clients keep him informed on what they're facing on the inside, so to speak, and so he joins us now from the provincial capital with more. Lee, it's good to see you again. How are you managing these days?
I'm well, Steve. Thank you. It's certainly an interesting time we're living in.
Ain't that the truth?
Well as well.
Ain't that the truth? Well, we've had you on this program a couple of times, well, several times in the past, a couple of times since COVID hit, and I guess I need an update from you off the top as to how much more complicated your world has become with the Omicron variant now in ascension.
Our jails, our prisons, and I'm remiss not to mention long-term healthcare facilities in the same breath, and hospitals, all congregate settings are faring really, really poorly. Really bad, brutal, inhumane conditions is what our prisoners are facing and also what our staff are facing at this time.
Tell me what you mean when you say brutal and inhumane.
Well, since pre-Christmas, there's been no visits, there's been minimal phone calls, lockdowns, constant lockdowns. They've become very dark, hateful places, and the stress levels are really there. COVID has impacted, Omicron has hit so many people, staff and inmate, that major outbreaks have been the norm for a month and a half now, and about 2 months.
And again, when you say dark and hateful, does that mean that the violence inside our institutions has upticked?
It has, and I'll give you an example. So we would have 4 or 5 day stretches of total lockdown, 2-3 men in a cell, and women, I suppose. I don't work with women right now presently, but two to three men per cell, 4 to 5, 6 days without any out time, no access to a shower, no access to a phone call. And when the ranges were let out to do a shower and a phone call, they refused to go back in. They were very frustrated with believing that they were heading back in for another week without access to anything outside of the cell.
Now, when you say 3 men in a cell, I presume you mean 3 COVID negative men in a cell. They wouldn't put people all 3 together in a cell if one of them had COVID, would they?
You know, Steve, one would think, I can say that the healthcare officials are doing everything they can in a congregate setting. But if we take the Toronto South Detention Center as an example, Central North, Central East, these are super jails that hold 1,300 inmates. And it's a real challenge to move people around, isolate. I mean, they don't have the same tools available. And that includes staff. Staff rates of COVID, which are not released publicly, have been really high. They've been low on staff, hence the lockdowns, but also transmissibility has been so high that you know, I have clients, for example, that are confident that they've had COVID and they don't report it because they don't want to be isolated.
Well, let's pick this apart. We'll do prisoners first and then staff second. If you are an inmate in a provincial institution in Ontario and you test positive for COVID-19, what happens to you?
You are to be isolated. And isolated, I think, within a prison jail setting is far a cry from what we have come to see as a norm out here, where we're able to actually do that, whether it be at home alone, whether it be breaking up the house into different components so that you know, somebody living in the basement or whatever the case may be, they don't have the infrastructure to do that. For example, every newcomer to an Ontario provincial jail is quarantined upon arrival for 15 days, but they're on a range with all other new arrivals, and double bunked and separated from the rest of the institution, but nonetheless, that's not quarantine. They are congregately being quarantined.
So when you say isolated, they're not really isolated, is what you're saying?
No.
Okay, how about staff? If a staff prison official tests positive for COVID-19, what happens to them?
Well, we have 2 different circumstances. In Ontario provincial jails, I'll touch upon the federal system. The Correctional Service of Canada has had a hard line stance. Anybody who's unvaccinated is not on site. And I believe at this point, they're looking at potentially ending contracts and terminating employment. They're really taking a hardline stance. Ontario provincial corrections have not done that, but staff have fallen to this tracing protocol. There's been so many outbreaks and cases within our jails that inevitably almost every staff member at one point or another has received a call saying you have to stay home for 10 days. You were on a tracing, you were found to have been traced to a direct contact. They have different variables as to how long they spent around the person who they've determined they've traced them to. But I would say that often our jails are running provincially with less than 50% of our staff on site and the balance at home isolated.
Okay, a couple of follow-ups from that. Did I hear you correctly in saying that it is not an obligation for a prison official to be vaccinated and be in the prisons?
In the Ontario provincial system, correct.
Huh, they don't have to be vaccinated. Okay. And the second thing is, now we've heard lots of talk, obviously, among doctors, healthcare workers, nurses, etc., about the burnout happening there because they're just constantly, of course, dealing with COVID all the time. Are we seeing the same kind of burnout as we are with doctors,
Right.
nurses, hospital workers, etc., among prison staffers?
Yes, we are. No question about it. We're 2 years into this, and we're short staff. The lockdowns, which are no fault of frontline staff, again, they're running at a 50% or under capacity. So they do not have the power to overcome this. Lockdown statuses, it's caused considerable strain day in, day out, attending what is essentially a petri dish for COVID, and have become quite frustrated. The other part of that is the frustration from inmates and families, and protests, et cetera, are really starting to hit home too. I mean, this has become, the frontline correctional officers have absolutely been through the grind, and I would say synonymous with PSWs and long-term care homes and frontline staff in hospitals.
Well, okay, I got to understand this better because presumably these institutions work better when there's a 100% staffing complement there to work. If you're trying to run an institution with 50% or less of the staff,
Right.
How can you make it work properly?
Well, that's why we're at this point. And Omicron, obviously, with the transmissibility, I think has been the highest rate of transmissibility since COVID began. There's been waves, and each one of them have hit the jail and prison system quite hard, especially provincially. Federally are far more protected and higher vaccine rates. But again, the provincial system, low vaccine rates for inmates. It's indefensible in a congregate setting. And the impact is, I feel it. I go on site and I visit clients professionally, and it's behind glass. You're double masked. You're asked to put on, or you're obligated to put on goggles. There's a temperature check. There's all these very thorough measures put in place to visit somebody professionally, and that's behind glass. But within the institution, there's no ventilation. There's no ability to open windows. There's no fresh air. They're tight settings. And yes, staff members are taking the brunt. Correctional officers are taking the brunt of the frustrations from inmates and families due to the lockdown conditions that have been ongoing for months on end.
Well, let me turn your attention to something that happened at the Southwest Detention Center in Windsor. I gather a woman died there recently. What can you tell us about that?
Well, sadly, my understanding is this young woman did not have a criminal record, but did have mental health issues. From what I understood, it's schizophrenia and bipolar and other issues, and she was battling mental health. From my understanding, the court had ordered a forensic mental health assessment. However, again, another congregate setting, the forensic mental health facility did not have beds, and actually related that to COVID and being understaffed and not having the bed available. So she was placed into the Windsor jail, and passed away. I guess from what I've heard, it's a cardiac arrest. I don't understand, but I can certainly imagine she was really, really stressed and frustrated. And, again, this is synonymous with what everybody's facing within their jails.
Right. Lee, I want to circle back to the issue of vaccinations. And we had hoped actually to have somebody from the Solicitor General of Ontario's office with you on this program. The Solgen, as it's nicknamed. Solgen is in charge of the prisons in the province of Ontario. They opted not to take us up on our invitation, but they did send us this statement, and I want to read this and get your reaction to it. The Solicitor General office says, "We have a dedicated supply of vaccine that is kept and stored at institutions so that facility healthcare staff can vaccinate newly admitted inmates and those already in custody on an ongoing basis and help increase uptake in the general population. It is important to note that COVID-19 vaccinations are voluntary, and newly admitted inmates may have already received their vaccination in the community prior to their admission to custody." Okay, there's a lot to sort of pick apart there, but why don't I just start with a general reaction from you?
It's factually true. COVID vaccinations are available, readily available, and actually at the very front end of this were. So I can attest to, I'm a sitting member on a committee for Ontario Healthcare within corrections, and the effort from the very top of Solgen and Healthcare for Corrections specifically has been a very aggressive agenda to get all inmates vaccinated. However, cooperation has been a real challenge.
So vaccine hesitancy is a thing among the prison population.
It is. I have a few clients who've refused. I know people out here who are. I would call it hesitation. I would call it fear. I would call it not so much anti-vaxxers, but certainly fearful and distrustful of the vaccination. And it's a real challenge. I have tried in my own right to encourage. I was not keen to get a vaccination at the front end of this myself, and I had to do a lot of homework, a lot of research, fact check to gain the comfort level to get vaccinated. And I did, and I'm now vaccinated 3 times over. And if another one comes, I'll be there to do it. I believe it's the best defense that we have collectively. And I've done a lot of homework on that. But I do understand that that demographic is a group of people who typically distrust the system to begin with. And they feel like it's been pushed really hard, and they're concerned about what may happen years down the road, whether there be side effects, etc. It's a real challenge.
Okay, let me pick up on another issue, which is, I guess a while ago there was a decision made that if an inmate is not really like a serious violent offender and might be okay in the general population of the province, they don't need to be behind bars at a time when congregate care settings could mean a death sentence. How are the efforts going to decrease the inmate population in the province right now?
Well, that's the irony. I think that's a great question that you pose. At the front end of this, we did a discussion, I recall, early in 2020. And there were efforts being made at that point to increase bails. Certainly that was one thing. So to try to bring down pre-trial incarceration, it was effective. The numbers did drop. But we've lost, that emphasis has gone by the wayside. And I'm not necessarily being critical. I don't think of the decision makers in this instance. It's been very fluid. I think throughout this, we've been hoping always and believing that we're, coming up on light at the end of the tunnel, and that maybe the next wave is the last wave. And it's been fluid. So it's been, nobody had a crystal ball on this. But those efforts have gone by the wayside, and our populations are much higher now.
Well, once again, we reached out to the Ministry of the Solicitor General for a comment on what they're doing on reducing the number of inmates in our institutions, and here's what they had to say. They said correctional services and justice sector partners, those are the federal authorities, continue to, quote, grant temporary absences for all intermittent inmates who serve time on weekends, use an expanded temporary absence authority to allow for early release of inmates who are close to the end of their sentence and are not convicted of violent crimes and are at a low risk to reoffend, use virtual court appearances, and avoid non-essential inmate transfers between facilities. Okay, that's what they say they're doing. Again, your reaction to all of that?
I haven't seen it in practice, and I know when this first rolled out in 2020, I did a lot of homework. I was in touch with a lot of officials, decision makers. My understanding when it came to the TAP program that they reference, the process entailed when somebody was down to 60 days to their statutory release date, their mandatory release, the end of their sentence, there would be a review process that was undertaken. And at the end of it, it would result through a vetting process and through decision making in that person being released in the neighborhood of 5 to 7 days ahead of the day that they would have been out regardless. At that point, and this was a couple months in, there had been less than 10 people that were released in that regard. The virtual court appearances are, I don't know what to say about that. That's certainly not reducing incarceration. I think it shouldn't be on the list. It plays no role. And the fourth item, I don't have it in front of me now, but
transfer between facilities of non-essential inmates, non-essential transfers.
This is a real concern for inmates and for certainly people who are working within the institutions. The union for Soljan, OPSU, have been outspoken about not wanting to transfer and move around because clearly COVID has just been, they shut down the Sudbury jail at one point. They shut down OCI, Vanier, and Brampton. Neither have reopened, as far as I'm aware. They've had massive outbreaks, and then they move people to other institutions. Obviously, the institution who is inheriting this is not thrilled, and the correctional officers who work there are not happy with that. The real issue is I have clients that are sentenced who have been in pretrial custody, sentenced to a term of provincial custody, and are remaining in detention centers on lockdown, unable to transfer to a correctional center where by definition there should be some resources and ability for rehabilitation. Those have been stopped. Transfers for people who are entering into custody provincially and then heading to the federal system are backlogged. So this is not helpful in my view.
Lee, I've got a minute left here, and I want to ask you a real hard question to finish off here, and that is this. Over the last couple of years, well, I think it's fair to say people have pretty much had it with COVID-19 right now.
Yeah.
And they've been asked to care about a lot of different things, performance of their governments, performance of their healthcare system, inability to see family members, inability to go out to various events, and so on. You represent people in our society that the general population probably cares about the least.
Yep.
So how would you encourage people watching or listening to this right now to actually care about the plight of inmates and or the staff who are, after all, in a part of the province that most people never see?
Right. Understood. It's easy to overlook, out of sight, out of mind. And you're right, the viewpoint on that, nobody really gives a damn. The view is those are very old people when it comes to long-term care, because I haven't seen a lot of empathy there either. Or those are very bad people, and it's got nothing to do with me when it comes to prisoners until it does. And when I say until it does, I work with many families who have first-time offenders and are appalled and shocked at what is happening with their loved one who is now incarcerated. But for the grace of God is an expression, and it can happen. And this does have an impact. Steve, I'd like to see technology be utilized in a far better way. We've been able to be very innovative in the world. We're doing this. I'm at home right now speaking with you. The show goes on, right? Businesses have become very innovative. Our jails may as well be in the 1800s at this point. We are just so far behind, and that impact, I believe, will result in higher recidivism, higher violence. It's not public safety, it's short-term containment, it's inhumane, and I don't believe it's a good investment, return on investment for Canadian monies being put into our correctional system.
Lee Chapelle, President, Canadian Prison Consulting, Inc. We always are grateful for your appearances on our program. You know so much about this system that the rest of us know so little about. So thanks for making time for us again on TVO tonight.
My pleasure. Thank you, Steve. Take care.
The Agenda with Steve Paikin is made possible through generous philanthropic contributions from viewers like you. Thank you for supporting TVO's journalism.